Hi, I'm Dana Opelman. This video is for my free sleep course for babies 7 to 12 months right here on YouTube. If you could use more guidance, then check out Sleep Sense Plus. The link is in the description below.
Good morning, welcome back. I hope you had a good night last night. Tonight we're going to make a pretty big transition, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. I want to give you some tips now for the next few days about going forward. Some things that can show up that I want to help prepare you for. One is sickness. Hopefully during this training period your baby's been really healthy, everything's been going well, but we all know that babies get sick. And so what can you do to help keep hold of your great sleep skills while she's ill? Well, the biggest mistake people make when a baby is sick is that they bring them into their beds. I'm not sure why. I mean, I kind of get it, but if neither of you is used to your baby sleeping in your bed, I promise you neither one of you is going to get good quality sleep. You're going to be disturbed by her noises, she's going to be disturbed by yours, and you're just not going to get very good sleep. And the truth about being sick is that our bodies require more rest and more sleep, but it's very difficult to get it because we have a stuffy nose, because we have a cough going on. So sleep tends to be very fragmented. So hauling her into bed with you is a bad idea, especially if she used to love. If that's the prop that you've worked really hard to break, please don't reintroduce it. The smart thing to do would be to go to her. You could bring in an air mattress or a spare room mattress, throw it on the floor by her crib, and camp out in her room for a couple of nights. That way you can keep an eye on her if you're worried, and it won't disrupt her as much as bringing her to you. Don't do anything for more than 3 nights. 3 nights is kind of my rule of thumb around creating a new habit or reminding her of an old one. So 2 nights, don't stay in there much longer than that, and there really should be no major need for you to do that. Another mistake people make is that they start to feed again or do something out of the ordinary when a baby is sick. Now, unless your doctor's recommended, because occasionally if there's a really high fever, sometimes doctors recommend fluids, an increase in fluid. So if that's the case, obviously follow your doctor's advice. But otherwise, there's really no need to go back to any kind of a prop association. So if you offer her a feed in the middle of the night, just be cautious and careful with that. Again, if it happens more than 3 nights in a row, you may have a habit now on your hands, and 6 months later you're still giving her a middle of the night feed. You can absolutely increase your comfort level. My son, my middle son, he went through a whole year of chronic ear infection, one right after the other. And yes, that is a very painful experience, especially when you're laying down. And so he would cry out in the night. One of us would go to him, have a cuddle, wipe his nose, maybe give him a drink of water, and then put him back in the crib to use his own skills. And the good news was he was such a great sleeper, he was so good at his own independent skills that he wouldn't have even let us rock him to sleep. He would often sort of push away and say, okay, thanks, now I'm ready to go back to bed. So that's good news if this is happening months down the road. But just be really careful and cautious. Increase comfort level, absolutely. You don't need to wait 10 minutes or do any sort of strict leave and check scenario. But just be careful that you don't intervene or mess around with these great skills that they've accomplished for themselves. And that's going to get you through sickness fairly easily. If for whatever reason you heard my advice but didn't listen, and find yourself back into old habits, the good news is that you know your baby can do this. You know you can do this. So you get your plan out, you dust it off, and you start again with the stay in the room method or with leave and check. Either one will work just fine. And you do a faster version of it. So 2 nights, 2 nights, 2 nights by the door, and then we're out of the room. And it should really only take her about 4 to 5 nights to get back on track because the skill set is already there. All right, we're going into night 10 tonight. This is an exciting night. For some of you, your babies won't even notice. They're so good at their own skills by now that It's no big deal that you're not there. But for some babies, it is a little bit of a big deal. They may have gotten a little hooked on the idea that you sit in that chair while I sleep, and there may be a slight regression tonight. It's nothing to worry about. We still do need to make this last step. We've got to get you out of this room. Now, a lot of people hear that advice but don't necessarily take it because things are going so well you don't want to rock the boat. And I absolutely get it. But I promise you, if you don't move the chair out of the room, it will backfire on you down the road. What tends to happen is the child begins to understand that the longer she fights this, the longer she fools around in her crib, the longer she shows you her somersaults, the longer you have to sit there. And then you'll find yourself being held hostage every bedtime for hours at a time while you bear witness to all of her tricks. That's less fun. Or she might think that your new spot in the night now is this chair, right? And she might wake up in the night, realize that you're not there, and cry for you to come back. And it's often like the minute you walk in the room and sit down in the chair, she goes back to sleep. Then you know that you're the prop now. And so we do want to keep this moving. I know you're a little nervous about it, but trust me, it's better to do it now when she's not too used to it yet than wait for a couple of months and then it's a little trickier. So just go ahead and exit the room. Do the routine same as usual. Give her kisses and all of that good stuff, and then you just quietly make your exit. If she cries, try to wait. 10 minutes is what we've been talking about for the last 13 days or so. So try to wait 10 minutes if you can. If that feels too long, then maybe start with 5 and see how that feels. And then go back. You can go into the room, say your key phrase, give 1 or 2 pats, nothing much. Remember, we don't want to interfere with her own skills. We don't want to get our hands incorporated in that in any way. So just a quick touch and then out the room for another 5 or 10 minutes and back and so on. And this usually doesn't take more than maybe 1 to 3 checkbacks before she finally goes to sleep because this is nothing new, right? She's been doing this now for 10 nights. That she can absolutely do this. She might just be a little nervous about the fact that you've gone. So that's what we do tonight. Good luck. See you tomorrow.